Yes, Jeremiah Englehart, trainer, having a very good meet up here at Saratoga as he has the last few years. Good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here. And what happened to the beard?
The beard didn't make the first week of the meet, I think.
That was a good one.
It was. I'm actually, every day I contemplate growing it back, but I can't get past like the 5-day stubble stage just yet.
Yeah, there is. As somebody who's had facial hair at various points, and still there is like a period that you have to live through. Right?
Yeah, you have to get through it.
Becomes
People
something.
ask you, they'll sit there and say, you got to shave. I'm like, I'm growing a beard. Sometimes it's not the best reply.
Yeah, so you got to start it at a time where you're on vacation or something.
Yeah.
Also, let's talk a little bit about, for folks who aren't familiar with you, obviously if folks watch this show, we've had you on before, but I always say we get new fans in. We'll talk your background and whatnot, but before we do that, I saw you around. I've seen you around town during the meet and in the paddock yesterday and in the clubhouse when I asked you to come on the show. How many kids do you have again?
5.
And then age range?
My oldest is 7. My twins are 5. My Eli's 4, and Jax is 2.
God bless you.
Well, my wife. Trust me. God bless my wife.
Yeah, it's a nice little family of the Engleharts. Were they here for the whole meet?
Yeah, they were up for the first 2 out of 3 weeks. I brought Eli up yesterday, and then my wife and the rest of the kids come up today for the end of the meet. So.
Okay, so are you still based out of Finger Lakes, or are you based downstate now?
Yeah, I live in Finger Lakes. I have horses. I keep about 70 to 80 horses there. Right now, 28 at Saratoga and about 30 at Belmont. So I spend my time rotating between those 3 places.
So the Easy Pass is kind of melted on your windshield. Yeah, okay, very good. And for folks who aren't familiar, give us the background, your background in the game, and how you're related to some of the other Engleharts they see in the program.
Okay, my father's Chris Englehart. My mother's Sheila Englehart. They got me started in the game at a real young age. 5, 6 years old, walking hots. And my brother Jeffrey, who's my second youngest brother, he's involved. He's a trainer. My brother Justin is my youngest brother. He's a jocks agent up at Finger Lakes. So, everyone. My brother Joe does he's the executive director of my company and my dad's company, so he kind of holds the fort down between our 2 businesses. Everyone's got their hand in it somewhere, somehow. But, my parents got us all started, and I'm not sure if it was because it was free labor or if it was because they really wanted to see us get in the game at that time, but it worked out fine.
It has worked out fine. You're having another great meet, and I wanted to pull up one of the wins from earlier in the meet because I think you have a special horse here. We're going to look at the funny side from just the other day, the 25th. The funny side, a little state bred stake, a couple $100,000. So it was nice, 6.5 furlongs. Evinu Malkanu, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the number 3 horse gets it done in here off a maiden breaker at the end of July here at the meet. And again, this is a nice New York bred, gets it done by a chart margin of 2.5. Talk a little bit about this horse and career start number 2, win number 2.
Okay, this colt, Travis Durr and I picked out at the OBS April sale, I believe. Kind of was real green, immature, big colt. We picked him out for Al Gold and Gold Squares LLC. His first start, I was a little concerned going 5.5 the distance, but he was telling me he might have been he was ready to run, and he got up, ran a nice race that day. Our goal originally was the hopeful. Then, as we kind of got closer to the funny side, we thought a little bit more. Maybe this would be a better spot for his second start off. In case he regressed a little bit from that first race. So we put him in the funny side, and he did, numbers-wise, he regressed 2 points on the Ragazins, but I still think for what he overcame that day, before the race, my assistant called me, and she's like, we got a scratch, and, he hit his head, there's blood coming from his nose and his eye, and I'm like, oh, God. So I had to run over to the barn, look at him, and he was fine. He did have a cut in his nose that was bleeding a little bit, but it wasn't anything that was going to kind of deter him from running, so that worked out all right.
It did not deter him from running. That was a pretty good day. So what's kind of the future? Again, New York bred, so you have all kinds of options. Is the Breeders' Futurity up at Finger Lakes? Is that still coming up? That's still
that's at the end of September. I think what we're going to do with him is point for the Champagne.
Okay,
and then we'll try to think. Of course, I've always wanted to try to get to the Breeders' Cup again.
Sure. Yeah.
So we'll think Champagne, and hopefully we're good enough to run in there, and then maybe move on from there.
All right. Also wanted to mention, and you're sitting on the AE list, but on Saturday you have a first-time starter, EJ's Revenge. So if we don't get in on Saturday, maybe we can get some ideas on this one coming down the road. I Want Revenge. Is that brand new, sire?
I think his 2-year-olds are. This is first year 2-year-olds. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking I haven't seen those yet. But as I say, EJ's Revenge. You're the number 11 in the second race on Saturday. A couple of turns on the grass, and it's that kind of year when we look at horses. And I'll ask you, the options are limited 2 turns on the dirt. So are you more looking grass, or are you more looking 2 turns with EJ's Revenge?
Actually, I always thought he'd be a dirt horse until I was, started getting into more serious works, and he just kind of reminds me of a horse that would prefer the turf. So we are going to start him in his first start on the turf. I don't know if he'll get into this spot, but we did re-enter him today for the 3rd or the 4th because they brought that race back as an extra because there was 8 excluded. So. We honor him back, and if not, we'll take him back down to Belmont and get him ready there. But he was a colt that actually I was really high on when Travis and I bought him in October at Fasig-Tipton. And he didn't really, he's a late foal, and he didn't really, when I saw him in February and March, he didn't really look like I thought he was going to when I bought him as a yearling. But he's kind of matured now, and his works are becoming a little bit more forward. So I think he's finally starting to pick it up a little bit.
Nice steady string of works. I'll ask you because I had Michael Dubbin the other day, and he said he had noticed during this meet, and there was one on today's card as we handicapped that had worked out for him that way. He said horses, he'd ship some horses up to Finger Lakes and go in 2 turns up there. It seemed like they had some fitness, and they would come back here and run very well.
Yeah, I think overall the horses that have come in from Finger Lakes have been pretty competitive. I know Ronnie Breed had a nice allowance win up here. The horse I ran yesterday, I trained him at Finger Lakes. The nice part about having horses stable at Finger Lakes is it's a real kind surface to train on. And I mean, obviously the horses that run there and are competing there, that's where they belong. But I can kind of keep some horses there and train them there, whether they the swimming pool or just the racetrack itself always seems to be a little bit kinder than the track here.
And I noticed looking at entries and results under your Equibase page, you've been shipping some over to Presque Isle too.
Yeah, we'll make probably 20 to 30 starts at Presque Isle. Some of the horses that don't do well on the turf here, I'll run them there in lesser class races on the synthetic, and they seem to transfer over pretty good from there.
Always like to give trainers a little bit of an opportunity to give a shout out to the staff and the owners and whatnot. Anybody you want to tip your hat to?
I'd be here for about 2 hours if I had to. No, we had a really good meet. I can't thank the barn enough. Excel and Jellamway, Melanie Giddings, the whole crew back at the barn. All my clients, Al Gold. I just picked up Coach Parcells. I got a very appreciative of the opportunity that I'm getting for him. Chip Acerno, Chris Dunn, Chris Mara, Neil Allred, who's been a longtime client of mine. I'm very blessed. Orlando DiRienzo and Nolan Russo. Like I said, I could keep on going, but I'm very blessed with the clients that I have and the staff that I have at the barn.
It's like that Oscar speech that I always forget
somebody.
Yeah,
I did. I forgot probably the one person, my wife.
Oh.
I couldn't do it without my wife.
Yeah,
last but not least. My wife Robin.
There was that Ben Affleck moment. It didn't work out well for him.
Yeah. I'll keep my fingers crossed.
You've mentioned going to the sales and your partner there. Talk a little bit about going to the sales and what you look for and what sales, yearling sales as opposed to 2-year-old sales.
It started, Travis and I kind of, he would have similar clients that I did down breaking horses at his farm, and we'd go and we started looking at horses together, and we came to find out that we really like the same type of horse, and that horse has kind of moved forward and has done well. So now we kind of work all the sales together. We've done not just horses to race, but pinhook and prospects and stuff like that, kind of just on the lower scale yet, but we're hoping to maybe build a little clientele for that. And they do a great job down there at Webb Carroll's, and I split most of the horses between there and then Al will send all of his to Jimmy Krupe at Krupe's Newcastle, and they do a fantastic job. I've been spoiled there too. So between those two guys, we've really got a good base to work with the young horses. So it seems to be the right method right now.
Still playing around the claiming game too, obviously.
Yeah, we've claimed some horses. This meet for Jim Riccio, who I'm kind of really excited. He's a guy that I always have a lot of respect for. In that angle of the game, he seems to make a lot of sharp buys, and hopefully I can continue that.
In the claiming game, is it more the owner or more you, or a combination of the two? In other words, are you looking and suggesting, or is the owner watching and saying, "Hey, I'm interested"?
It's always for me, it's a combination of both. I'll bring up 5 or 6 horses to Michael Poli, and I'll get shot down by all of them. And I don't ever keep tabs, but then they'll bring up the right horse to me every now and then. So it's a combination of both. I always tell everyone it's first come, first serve. And all my clients seem to be pretty happy with that. It makes them get out there and get the form and read the numbers and whatnot. So
where are you stable?
Here?
Yeah.
I'm in Barn 61.
Over?
In Oklahoma, right next to Todd.
Oh, so you're over on Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna. So you don't come over and use the Claire too much.
Nah, I was
just going to ask because I always wonder why you bring a horse over here as opposed to working out.
Sometimes, if you here on Clare Court, you'll have a case where you get a horse that gets a little wound up, and just training on that track would seem to calm it down a little bit. If he goes too fast, it'll slow him down. If he or she gets too hyper, usually it calms him down pretty good. It's just another avenue to kind of train a horse.
Yeah, it's clearly a different atmosphere out here, which
is,
for us it's great, but it has a little quieter atmosphere than I'm sure the main track or Oklahoma does. Well, Jeremiah, we'll let you go. We'll also mention, I always mention every year, you were good in the basketball game again, particularly when you suited up for the jockeys and intentionally missed a couple and got us back into it.
I just finally was able to get those Mary Lou silks off. It took me 3 weeks.
Jeremiah, they space eater down there. And, that was a fun game this year, though. They came down to the foul shot with no time.
It was. That was a game. It was a lot of fun. I think both sides, the fans, they got a good show. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, always for a good cause as well. Jeremiah, we'll let you go. But again, it's been a great meet. Continued success through the end of this Saratoga meet and going forward.
Thanks a lot, Seth. Thanks for having me.
All right, Jeremiah Englehart.